She's running for the House seat in California's 16th congressional district. And it may be an uphill climb for her as she's going head-to-head against 7-term incumbent Democrat Jim Costa. Heng came close to Costa in the state's jungle primary in June, trailing him by only 6 points. And Elizabeth Heng joins me now from Fresno, California. Ms. Heng, it's great to see you. I have to say, I've heard a lot about you from Republicans in Washington who have been very focused on your candidacy and have held you up as an example of a fresh female face in the party. And I was reading a little bit about your life story, and I'm hoping that you might share a little bit of your background with us. And what role did that play in your deciding to run for office, especially in this environment, which is a tough one for Republicans?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me here today. When I decided to get in this race, a big part of my story is that great things can come from great adversity. My parents lived through the genocide in Cambodia, came to the United States as penniless refugees, and managed to establish a life here in Fresno, California, and work as hard as possible to providing my brothers and everything that they didn't have growing up. So when I decided to get into this race and looking at the makeup of this congressional district, being a strong bulk of them being either first or second generation immigrants, it being one of the poorest congressional districts in the country, that was the message that I wanted to send to the community.
You have accused your opponent, Jim Costa, of having, quote, no original ideas in his 14-year career. I'm wondering, what ideas would you bring to the House, and what's one policy in particular where you differ from Republican leaders in Washington, but that you think your constituents will get behind?
Immigration reform. My opponent has been talking about a bipartisan immigration reform for over a decade now, for 14 years. Yet, as you know, and at the national scale, both, I believe, Republicans and Democrats have punted this topic for far too long, leading us to the crisis in which we are here we're dealing with today. We need a comprehensive immigration reform that works, where we're compassionate with DACA recipients, for example, and we're increasing the guest worker program and the H-1B visas, but tying this all to border and national security so we solve immigration once and for all, and we're not talking about this 10 years from now.
Your campaign is running an ad focused on Nancy Pelosi, who, of course, is currently the minority leader, potentially the next Speaker of the House if Democrats take back the House. I want to show our viewers that ad, and then we'll talk about it. Take a look.
Votes against the Farm Bill, but supports sanctuary cities, higher taxes, more spending, gun control, and the money-wasting bullet train. Allows San Francisco environmentalists to deny us our water. Nancy Pelosi, yep, but also, surprisingly, Jim Costa. After a lifetime in politics, Jim is no longer one of us. Costa's walking in Nancy Pelosi's shoes.
Costa la vista, baby!
I'm Elizabeth Heng, and I approve this message.
So my first reaction to that, do you not feel as though that ad is just a little bit sexist?
No, not at all. You know, when I'm watching all of these ads, there's so much finger pointing going on in Washington, D.C. and in the ads that I wanted to be able to talk about the policies that are heavily impacting this district that absolutely do not make sense for it. For example, the water policies that Nancy Pelosi is pushing forth is not one in which would work for our ag-based community here in California. We need water, and we need water policies that work here.
Fair enough, but that ad doesn't, is not focused on policy. It's showing her high heels. Do you think that some of the attacks that Republicans level at Nancy Pelosi are potentially sexist or not?
No, I disagree with that. I think this was just a lighthearted way of saying that my opponent talks about being a blue dog Democrat for this community and a fighter and champion for it. But the problem is that when you vote in line with Ms. Pelosi, nearly 90% of the time, it's undeniable that your policies do align with her. And to say that you don't here in the Valley, in the district, I think is misleading.
All right, Elizabeth Heng, very much appreciate your time. We should note that we did invite Congressman Jim Costa to be a guest on our show tonight. He declined.